So here we are, we're all on this planet Earth. We're all just trying to make things meaningful. And if you look at ourselves from the scope of the universe, we're this tiny, 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 tiny speck of something, right? Dust is the minimum that we could call ourselves. I don't know what else you would call it below that, but we're like this little speck of dust in this huge cosmic thing. This, let's call it an experience. And through all of that, we're just trying to make meaning of it all. This one tiny little speck of dust, and we're trying to have some meaning in this grand cosmic experience that we're having, being a human on this planet. And the reason why I'm talking about this now is because lately, you know, I'm 52 now, and when you hit 50, something does change. You start, even when you hit 40, right? There's every part of life you experience, you know, these evolutions of mind and thought, and it happens in your 40s, your 30s even, you know, or even in every age group, right? You hear about it. People in their 20s and they late 20s, they're about to approach 30 and they start having these different thought processes. And it happens, you know, every 10 years, right? When you're going to go into that next decade or go into it, your thought evolves into reevaluating what life is, the meaning of it. And, you know, here I am in my 50s and it's changed. And lately, you know, I'm doing things that I love and that I want to do, and there's more growth that needs to happen and more, you know, I have the same concerns that everybody else does. You're thinking about your financial growth. You're maybe not exactly where you want to be financially, but you're moving in that direction, and you have to strive for things still, and there's work and labor involved and all that stuff. And we all go through that, no matter where we're at, no matter what we're doing. You know, just wherever people are at, they're striving for something. And if you haven't seen the J.Lo documentary on Netflix, watch that, because this is like a prime example of, you know, someone who has that level of success, that level of money, still has things that they are being held back from them for certain unjust reasons, right? And sometimes it's an unjust reason. Sometimes it's just you haven't gotten there yet. You know, there's all different reasons, but what that shows is the human side of how we're all trying to make meaning of things, and we're all on this like journey of doing things, and I think we're all doing all of these things because we're trying to create meaning in our lives as those little tiny specks of dust that we are, right? And lately I've just been feeling a little bit, it's not like a constant thing, but it's a consciousness enough for me that I'm paying attention to it, but I feel a sense of boredom. And I've always felt not of this world. I have always felt like more on the other side than here. I know that I'm not coming back. If you believe in, you know, life after death and all that stuff and reincarnation, which I do, you know, I don't think it's so mysterious, you know. I don't often say reincarnation. It's a way to explain it, but I do feel like we have stuff that we want to learn, and this is a great school to do it in, right? The learning that we do through being a human on earth is, you know, an amazing, exquisite experience. And I know this is my last lifetime here. I've known that. And so there's part of me that always is feeling anxious to go home. And so, you know, lately I've just been kind of looking at my life experience, you know, and feeling these little things of boredom. And this is why it's important to be colorful, to be playful, to have experiences, like in July, we're going to go to Midsummer Scream. I've never been, but I've been to Monsterpalooza and all these things. I love monster culture, and I love paranormal stuff and scary movies, not thrashers or blood and guts, but thrillers. These are kind of some of the things that make me excited to have these different experiences. And I think that that's what we're looking for. It's important to have those. But I just wanted this podcast that we're doing, it's called Yes. And I want to explain to you why it's called Yes also. This is the Yes podcast because oftentimes when people are sharing things that are positive or on track, with who we are endeavoring to be as human beings, I would often just respond, yes. And so it made sense to me that this would be called the Yes podcast for patrons, because everything in my life, and I know everything in your life, is, to move through life saying yes to things, not being the anti thing, but being the yes person, to experience, to growth, to love, to healing, to helping, to becoming part of the solution and not the problem, right? We're always saying yes. And so I have aptly called this the Yes podcast. This is only for patrons. It's not going on, any other platform or iTunes or anything. It's not going to be available on YouTube. This is just for the patrons. And so, this is the first Yes podcast. And what I'm going to do is just talk about things too that are going on with me, to share with you things I'm thinking about, just like, I did a minute ago. And then just talk to you about some other serious things. And so some of the other serious things, more educational, more enlightening things, is an experience that I just recently had, and it made me kind of contemplate a whole series of things, and I want to talk to you about that. So this part is really about just not allowing yourself to be judged by others. And so the thing that, there was a time in my life when someone would do or say something to me that I felt was mean-spirited or untrue, just untrue, right? And someone would hit me with, a judgment of something about me, and I felt it was untrue. I would really be triggered by that. I could go into a downward spiral. I would be irate. I would rage against the machine, and it's different now. And I'm glad that it's different for me now, because that means that I've evolved, right? I've evolved, and some of this comes with age and just, knowing the wear and tear on your soul that it is to be triggered by everything all the time. And also, if we're constantly triggered, there's still stuff in there that we need to work on. If we are immediately triggered into a reaction, that means there's something there that is still extremely wounded. And that's really what judgments are, right? So if you think about this, if someone comes at you, so someone came at me recently, and this is the thing that surprises me. I'm not going to go into the details of why, but I'm going to tell you that when you're in the public eye, which I am, you put yourself out there, and that makes you vulnerable. Now, a long time ago, in my, in high school, I learned how to be vulnerable because I was in a creative writing class. We would sit in a circle, and everyone every week had to write a poem or something, a story, and we would have to share it in this circle. And it was a safe circle where everybody could learn to be vulnerable together. Whether they were good at it or not good at it didn't matter. It was an expression. However, when you are out in the world and you're putting yourself out there, it's not a safe circle. Not always. Not even within your own community can it be a safe circle, because what I also learned a long time ago is people will love or hate you with equal zest. Right? It's like that Howard Stern thing, whether they loved him or hated him, they kept tuning in, and more people were watching or listening, right? So that's part of understanding that when you put yourself out there, you know, it would be a false sense of safety to think that you're going to resonate with everyone all the time. And because someone's in your community, that they're going to love everything you do and everything you say. They're not. And that's just a fact. You have to accept that. So in this instance, someone responded to something that I put out there, and the way in which they did it made me really sad. Now, in the past, that might have triggered me to get up in arms and have to justify why I did or said a thing that I said. It didn't provoke that in me, because nowadays I don't seek approval from other people. And I don't put, and this has been my mentality for a very long time, like we're talking high school. I don't put anything out there that I wouldn't want blown up on the front cover of a newspaper. That used to mean more when newspapers were bigger, but they're still out there, right? So I'm careful with the stuff that I put out there because I want it to represent me. And so when I put stuff out there, I know what my intentions are in doing it. I know where I'm coming from. I know the love that I feel and the intentions that I feel. And so when someone comes back at me with all this anger and rage about something that I said or something, you know, that I put out there, I don't get triggered by it the way I used to, where I would immediately be defending it because I don't feel I need to. It's okay for people to disagree and not like what you do. And this is what not all people understand, right? Because something is happening and shifting in our world right now where people, I'm worried about where it's going to go 10, 20 years from now. Because what's happening is when people have a disagreement, they no longer seek to share information. They no longer seek to have a meeting of the minds the way we used to. We would disagree with each other about things, and a conversation would ensue. And it was assumed that we were trying to understand the other person and where they're coming from so that we could have a meeting of the minds. What's happening now is people are just saying what they have to say and just throwing it at you. And then they are cutting you off and blocking you from every means and avenue to have a respectable Socratean kind of discussion. You know, and I don't even know if that's a word, Socratean, but it is to me. I made it up right now, but it's all about, you know, what I mean by that is the ability to reason. So what makes me sad about that is that when you are not allowing there to be disagreement, and you're not allowing there to be conversation that ensues from that disagreement through response, respectful response. I'm not talking about just you got triggered, right? Because if you're triggered, you still work on you. Because half or more of what's going to come out of your mouth are your issues if you're triggered and then responding, right? Reacting, I should say, because responses are intelligent thought. We think about why you will have this trigger maybe, and then the difference is it doesn't mean you're never going to feel the trigger. It means when you're ready to have intelligent conversation, you turned it inward first, and not in a self-loathing way. You turned it inward in the sense that you go, whoa, what am I feeling right now? Why? You try and figure out why you're feeling the way that you are, and you start to rationalize it, process it, understand it from the point of view of yourself first. Why did that trigger me if it did, right? How am I, in my case, it was how do I feel about this? Did she make any points? Which she did. And I think the thing that made me upset was she did not allow me to be sensitive to her. She did not allow me to be sensitive to the issue that she brought up. So the next part of this is, why do people react like that? And in this case, and in a lot of cases, people have prepackaged judgments. The judgment that she put on me, she already had in her head and was ready to go. She was looking for people to have this, how can I word it? She already had the judgment in her head. And when you do that, it's going to be really easy for you to find people that trigger you. Because you have a judgment locked and loaded. Any people that do this is the judgment for that. And behind that judgment is the storyline that justifies all their behaviors to just bomb you with their judgment. And the sad thing is that these people that are doing this are also the ones that are putting out how they feel, judging you, and then cowardly blocking any kind of response because they are so sensitive that they can't even listen to what the response might be. And in my case, she would have been very surprised because she was expecting the same level of attack that she came to me with. That anger that she threw out there, she was too fragile to take it back if that was going to be my response. And this is what happens is, the level of fragileness of a person and their own triggers and their own pain by the fact that they can't listen to the response because they are so fragile that they unleashed all this anger and rage from their fragileness around this issue. And then they cut off all response because they're so fragile. They can't take any information in. They're so fearful of what the response will be and it might crush them that they just cut off any means in which you can have a conversation. And most of the time, the conversations that will come back from people will be angry because that's what happens in life, right? A lot of people, if they throw anger and rage at you, someone will come back and throw anger and rage right back at you. But if we're trying to develop as spiritual beings, we go through a different process. When we've done enough work on ourselves, where we are no longer having those responses, that's kind of how you know you've hit a different level. Because you're no longer interested in that energy of lashing out. You are not going to hold the energy anymore of that type of anger and rage and judgment. You just aren't going to do that, even when someone unleashes it on you. I'm completely uninterested in that type of energy. I don't engage it, but I always do engage. I hear you. I hear what you said, and I'm sad that you didn't allow me to even be sensitive to you. And that's where I'm coming from. And so I worry, and I don't know about you guys, but I worry about what this means for future communication amongst people. Are we going to dumb down our communication so much that all we can do is club people over the head when we disagree or turn to violence, basically? Like, we're seeing this in our politics right now. Like, the inability to even have a conversation when we disagree. and people resorting to violence. Even in advertisements, there's some crazy advertisements, that are out there right now. And, this goes every which way. It's, why are we going to dumb down our communication so much in the fact that we can now just cut everybody off from having any point of view that's different? Is every communication going to be so catastrophic when we disagree that it requires a block, an unsubscribe, blocked from text messages if it's in a personal live block? Just, are we blocking everybody out? Is that like, what is the end result over time of that kind of response to disagreement? That's what scares me, and we're kind of seeing that now play out, and it isn't good, So that's one of the things that's been on my mind, is responding to someone with sensitivity, being able to empathize. We don't always have to agree, but gosh, can we all empathize with someone else, that they have a different point of view and it might affect them differently? Can we at least do that? So these are the kind of things that, that I've been thinking about, and not allowing someone to change, who you are, because for some people that can get in your head, especially if you're out in the public eye. So just to kind of, wrap this discussion up, the topic is basically don't be judged by other people, right? People will absolutely, when you're out in the public eye, you will come across someone who will try and judge you for something, or will judge you for something. And my advice is just don't be judged by other people. Empathize, internalize, rationalize, like go inside and look at it from you and see how they're feeling. What do I feel about all of this stuff? But then ultimately realize that you've already done all the thought into it. You've already owned what you believe in. Own what you put out there. And if you've done all of that before you even thought to hit send or, to put your message out there, you've done all of those things, then you can own it when the judgment comes. You don't have to apologize for it. And you see this happening a lot. People talk about it on, like, people put out statements and then they turn around and they have to, their company makes them say, I apologize for certain things. And that's what I'm talking about. It's like, if you put something out there and that your heart was good and you didn't harm anybody, and if you did harm somebody because unintentionally, gosh, it's not a problem to acknowledge that when your heart was good. You can acknowledge that, right? Sometimes we make mistakes, and that's okay. But every time that you have something that you've said or you do that someone else has a reaction to, you don't have to apologize for every single thing that you do or say because someone else judged you for it, right? And this is where, like, owning who you are, being a kind and loving person, but just owning the stuff that you put out there and really thoughtfully put things out there. We will always, be able to say we're sorry for certain things because we're imperfect beings. But gosh, just being allowed to have the conversation with the individual that was upset by something, that's the most important thing. And the saddest thing when they won't even allow you to be sensitive, right? So at the end of the day, you have to own everything that you put out there and what you do. And so that's what I want to say to all of you guys, because most of you guys that are following me are in the healing industry and you're vulnerable. You're putting yourself out there. And so, just keep saying, yes to love and to light and to putting yourself out there. And, make sure that while you're out there, you're, you're out in the world, but don't let the world live in you, because right now there's a lot of violence happening and there's a lot of scary things going on. Keep, being that fleck of light and dust in the universe that's bringing meaning to their life. And when you bring meaning to your life, you're going to bring meaning to other people's lives, I guarantee. And, just continue to find things in life that you can look forward to and then go after them. So like for me, it's going to be Midsummer Scream, which of course I'm going to share videos with you guys. I'm going to be posting, videos to share with you when I'm out there and having an experience, because it brings me joy. And so look for things that bring you joy and do those things. Have at least one thing a month that brings you joy that you do, whether it's going to a special place, finding a weird spot somewhere. Maybe you drive over to the next state over to find something unique and different to do, or stay at a unique bed and breakfast. I mean, do something, because we all need things to look forward to, because life can get heavy sometimes. And so that's all I wanted to say for this number one Yes podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please leave me comments and respond. And I'm going to be doing, leaving these podcasts at the end of each month. I'm not going to have a set day or time that I'm going to be doing this. This time around, because Patreon has had many incarnations, I'm just going to keep it light and easy. And I'm so grateful that you guys are supporting me. Everyone is going to get this, the same thing as far as this Yes podcast. It's not kind of this, you have to be at this level to get this or to get that. The only time that might change is if we end up doing the Advanced Academy, which is a whole other thing. But everybody is going to get this podcast, no matter what your level is, because I just want to do it that way and make sure that everybody gets this one-on-one connection with me and me with you. So thank you so much. Please leave a comment and let me know that you were there and that you listened. If anything in particular stood out to you, let me know, because the more that you guys comment and share, the more it makes me feel connected to you. And remember, I need that too. Okay. So until next month, you guys, I will see you later, and just keep saying yes to life. Bye.